If you follow the news in India, it can sometimes feel like you're just reading a never-ending list of crimes. But what's the real story behind those shocking headlines? Well, we're going to try and look past the noise. And to do that, we're going to examine a few recent cases that, believe it or not, tell a much, much bigger story.
Okay, first up, a case that is it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. A successful CEO is accused of murdering her own child. Now, this isn't just a crime story, it's a profound tragedy that absolutely horrifies the public and almost immediately sparks calls for a court-monitored investigation.
Then you have this kind of story, where crime, celebrity, and big money all collide. We're talking about an extortion case worth millions, allegedly involving a famous actor. And suddenly, the whole legal process becomes this huge media spectacle.
We also see the constant ongoing fight against corruption in the system. In this case, a former minister is actually jailed, and it serves as this powerful reminder that the law is supposed to reach everyone, even those at the highest levels of power.
And finally, we get a glimpse into the changing face of crime itself. Police bust a digital fraud syndicate. This right here showcases a totally modern challenge, one that requires a whole new playbook for law enforcement.
So, you've got this wild mix of stories. A personal tragedy, a celebrity scandal, political corruption, high-tech fraud. How do we even begin to connect these seemingly random dots? Well, that's what we're going to do. We'll explore the patterns behind the crime blotter, put the justice system in the spotlight, look at the immense pressure it's under, and talk about the new challenges it's facing.
All right, to get started, let's kind of act like detectives for a minute and just categorize these headlines. Because once you start grouping these stories together, you can begin to see these really clear patterns of the challenges the justice system has to deal with day in and day out.
And the context for everything we're about to talk about is this number. India's justice system serves over 1.4 billion people. I mean, just think about that for a second. The sheer volume and the unbelievable complexity of cases that a population this massive generates, it's almost impossible to fully comprehend.
And what this all shows is that crime isn't just one thing. It's a whole spectrum. The headlines we just saw, they fall into all these different categories, from deeply personal violent crimes to common street scams, all the way to high-stakes financial fraud and deep-seated political corruption. The justice system has to be ready to handle every single bit of it.
Now let's talk about those cases that are so explosive that they move way beyond the local news. They put the entire justice system under a national microscope, and they force a really difficult public conversation.
Let's circle back to that first headline we saw, the case of CEO Suchana Seth. This one just immediately grabbed the nation's attention. The details were so jarring. A successful tech founder accused of murdering her own 4-year-old son.
You see, a case like this poses a unique challenge. It pushes the justice system way beyond just looking at evidence. It forces courts and investigators to navigate these incredibly difficult questions about motive, about mental health, all while being under this intense public scrutiny for a crime that just strikes at our most basic human emotions.
Now, let's switch gears to a completely different kind of case that also captures the public's imagination. Here, you have a very prominent politician who's granted bail after being investigated by a federal agency in a major corruption probe.
And here, the pressure is totally different. This case immediately shines a light on that very contentious, very tricky line between law and politics. Every single decision, from the moment of arrest to the granting of bail, is analyzed and scrutinized for any hint of political bias. It really puts the judiciary's independence to the ultimate test.
So, we've seen the types of cases the system is up against. But what actually happens once a case enters the system? Now we're going to look at the immense pressures that define that long and often incredibly difficult road to a verdict.
To really understand the process, you have to know this one term, the FIR, or First Information Report. This is, and I mean this, the bedrock of the entire criminal justice process. A cognizable offense is a serious one, where police can make an arrest without a warrant. The filing of an FIR is basically the official starting gun for almost every criminal case.
And from that one FIR, this long, winding journey begins. You've got the police investigation, then the filing of a charge sheet which lays out all the evidence. Then there's the trial itself, a verdict, and after all that, often a lengthy appeals process that can literally go on for years. Every single step has its own procedures and its own potential for delays.
But here's where the real pressure starts to build. It's not just that the process itself is long, it's that millions of new cases are flooding into this pipeline every single year. And that creates a colossal backlog that tests the resources and the resilience of the entire system, from the local police station all the way up to the Supreme Court.
All right, finally, let's look at how the nature of crime itself is changing. Because as India rapidly modernizes, its justice system is being forced to confront new and evolving challenges. Things that simply didn't exist a generation ago. We're seeing this direct evolution of criminal activity. Think about it. Traditional crimes like physical theft are morphing into online identity theft. Simple street-level scams have become these sophisticated cyber fraud syndicates that can operate from literally anywhere in the world. The core motives, greed, revenge, they might be the same, but the methods have gone completely digital. And this headline is a perfect example. A job scam. It's an age-old crime, right? It preys on people's hopes, on their aspirations. But today, scams like this are supercharged by technology, reaching thousands of potential victims online and making the culprit so much harder to trace and to prosecute. So, when you put this all together, what's the big takeaway? It's that India's justice system is anything but static. It's this incredibly dynamic arena that's forced to constantly grapple with age-old problems like corruption, while at the exact same time racing to understand and police the unforeseen consequences of a massive digital revolution.
And that really leaves us with the final and pretty critical question to think about. As technology, society, and the very nature of crime itself continue to transform at this breakneck speed, how must the laws, the police, and the courts evolve to meet that challenge? How did they deliver on that fundamental promise of justice for all?